Thank you for joining me in a Bible study in a series called Encounters with Jesus out of the Gospel of John. We've made a little shift in the Gospel of John. Last week we talked out of John 13. We were studying Jesus being together with his disciples for what's called the Last Supper. After that, the things that he says in the book of John are really directed towards his disciples, towards teaching them, towards reassuring them. And today in John 14, we're going to see some messages that he gives to his disciples and to you and me that are really powerful. For example, verse 1 of John 14 says, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust in me." During COVID, that verse has meant a lot to me. There have been a few nights when I lay my head down on my pillow and I'm out of my routine. Things aren't the same at church. They're not the same at work. Even in my family, I have 2 little ones that are under a year old, and we haven't been able to see them the way that we would like to be able to see them. So this verse, don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me. That has meant a lot to me over the last 2 months. And then in verse 6, Jesus says to his disciples, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." He's reminding them that he is making a way, a new covenant, through these last days of his life. Then in verse 16 of chapter 14, he says this, "I will ask the Father, and he will give you another counselor to be with you forever, the Spirit of truth." Jesus is sending the gift of the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit is going to be released in a new way among believers. Jesus lets them know in John 14 that this is a plan that he has, that he is sending them a gift of the Holy Spirit. Think about gifts that you've bought recently. One of my daughter-in-laws is having a birthday and trying to figure out what would be a gift that would make her so excited to receive. I love doing that. Jesus is sending a perfect gift for his disciples, for you and me, a perfect gift in the gift of the Holy Spirit, to come alongside them as their counselor. The word that's used is called parakletos, advocate. John has been giving clues about the Holy Spirit all throughout the book. And now in chapter 14, Jesus talks directly about the Holy Spirit. Let's start in verse 15 and read through 17. Jesus says, "If you love me, you will obey what I command, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another counselor to be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. The world cannot accept him because it neither sees him or knows him, but you know him, for he lives in you and will be with you." This is powerful. Jesus is going away, but he reassures the disciples that he will send the counselor, Parakletos, to be with them, to be their help. When we think about an advocate, I want you to get the picture of a lawyer in your mind, one who comes alongside of you, who defends you, who gives you trustworthy advice. That's Parakletos. That's that other counselor, the Holy Spirit, that we have access to. But Jesus says something really powerful in verse 15. He says, "Obey my commandments. If you love me, you will obey what I command." Why does it matter if we obey? How does that impact the Parakletos, the advocate coming alongside of us? Well, disobedience has consequences. And so Jesus reminds his disciples, not only in verse 15, but also in verse 21 of this portion, that obeying him sets them up to receive the fullness of the gift that he's sending. His gift will live in us and be with us. Jesus intends for the Holy Spirit to dwell in us and to build an ongoing relationship with us. This gift that Jesus reveals comes to us and is fully received as we obey God. And the Holy Spirit will be our teacher. I want to read verses 18 through 22. The Holy Spirit is going to reveal Jesus to us, will allow us to hear from God. Verse 18 says, "I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. Before long, the world will not see me anymore, but you will see me. Because I live, you will live. On that day, you will realize that I am in the Father, and you are in me, and I am in you. Whosoever has my commands and obeys them is the one who loves me. He who loves me will be loved by the Father, and I too will love him and show myself to him." Jesus reminds us that a part of the Holy Spirit's job is to reveal the Father to us. The Holy Spirit is going to be our teacher. These words that Jesus gives to the disciple are powerful and they're important. Why doesn't every Christian have a deep relationship with God? Well, maybe it's because they're unwilling to obey God. I ask myself, am I obeying the things that I know to do? As I obey the Lord, the Holy Spirit has a greater freedom in me. And what will the Holy Spirit do for those who humble themselves to obey God? He will come and make his home in us. Let's look at verses 26 and 27. Oh, I'm going to start in 22. I'm sorry. "Then Judas, not as Judas Iscariot, said, 'But Lord, why do you intend to show yourself to us but not to the world?' Jesus replied, 'If anyone loves me, he will obey my teaching, and my Father will love him. We will make our home with him. He who does not love me will not obey my teaching. These words that you hear are not my own. They belong to the Father who sent me." Verse 25 goes on to say, "All of this I have spoken while I am still with you. But the Counselor, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you all things, and he will remind you of everything I've said to you. Peace I leave you. My peace I give you. I do not give you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Do not be afraid. Verse 1 in John 14 started out with, do not let your hearts be troubled. And here, after explaining to them that he's going to send the Holy Spirit as a gift and as their teacher, he says again, do not let your hearts be troubled. Do not be afraid. Who is the Holy Spirit? He's one who comes alongside of us. He's our advocate. He's our comforter. He's our teacher. Because of the advocate, our helper, the Spirit of truth, we can live in peace. Even during COVID, during job stoppages, during illness, during upheaval of whatever kind, we can have a peace in us because the Holy Spirit is with us. He's giving us His guidance. His presence is there, and we have peace. Don't let your hearts be troubled. Don't be afraid. But let's open ourselves to the presence of the Holy Spirit, to His leading, to His guiding in our lives. He will fill us with that peace that passes all understanding. Next week, we'll be looking at John 15. Why don't you go ahead and read it and see what the Holy Spirit says to you as you read through John 15. And next week, we'll study together again. Enjoy that gift, the Holy Spirit. He is with you as you follow and humbly obey the things God's putting on your heart at this time. The Holy Spirit continues to lead and guide you. Thanks, everyone, for studying with me today. We'll see you next week.